Welcome, drawing students, to our next round in this one. I was wondering if I was going to make a little bit of a video, but I wanted to give you guys some ideas, I guess, on how to proceed, on things to think about. Some of this may be a little bit redundant, some things you already know about values and those sorts of things, but I wanted to give you some information anyway. So I have a couple of things here that we can work with. One, we have the original photograph, we have the outline drawing that I'm going to be working on. I guess one thing you want to try and think about at least a little bit is a little bit of light source as you start to create these drawings. That's helpful to try and make things go the way they're supposed to. For example, as we look down here with this one, we know that there's some light coming in this way because there's a highlight on this side and it gradually goes darker, so we know that a gradient effect would be there. When you think about the bricks, they do have some lights that are coming down here that seem to be illuminated, but it's generally light overall. So I think the dominant light we're going to have here is coming from above and probably from one side. The reason why I say that is this. If you have structures that are like these bricks or something like that, or a cube of some sort. The bricks are basically, you know, cubes and that sort of thing. So we have this sort of a thing going on, and we've designated those with some sort of a structure kind of like that. And so if we have a light source coming in here, usually down from one side or another, and it strikes this surface, that means that this side of the brick is going to be illuminated as well as this side of the brick. So conversely, this side is going to be darker over here, and as you start putting in your values. And so you might have a little bit of a light edge here, and then the main value you have for your brick, and then down over here might be a slightly darker side as you start to put those together with that. And so as you start to compile your shading in on your values of your bricks, you find that it starts to do something like this, where you're leaving the light side there and then you're putting in the dark side of those bricks. One thing to consider, and so that kind of envelops the whole of the bricks themselves as they start coming in. Let's go ahead and put a few down here as well. So we have this as being our medium value for the brick itself, and then this part coming in to be the shadow side of the brick. Now this you might consider as well some of the values associated with the mortar or something like that between the bricks on that. And so as you start to see those start to appear, this makes it for where you can actually have a light mortar and a dark side and a light side to the bricks in of themselves. And so it starts looking more brick-like, where you have a light side here and here on those. The same is true of any of the things you have when you consider those, that they are actually cubes on that, and you do have a light side and a dark side to something that is a cube on that, if you're seeing it here and it's going back into space or something along those lines. A planter box, depending on what it is. Depending on where that light source is coming, you'll have within each of these areas, you'll have a light side, a dark side, and then a value for your various areas. So if I'm having this one here, and we deem that, as with these ones, this is the light side, then I can come in here like this and put in the medium value, leaving the white. Oops, I need a little more juice on my pencil here. Okay, so I'm putting in that medium value, so it's the base value of this object itself, and then having maybe a darker side to it as you put those in. And you can blend them so that they're smooth on that one. It doesn't have to be abrupt on that. You can have a nice blend on it. And then maybe this side over here is a little bit darker as it comes to this other part, so that you have a light edge here and you have a light edge here as the light's coming down, and these parts are receding away from it. And that's when you can still keep the line value on that, because that's a good border, and usually you do have lights and darks reflecting on that. That's how you have the structure. But the value of the item itself, as you start to put those values in, is is something like that, some pseudo sort of gradient effects on it. So as I look at some of these areas here, as I start to identify them on what it is I want to draw, this one has kind of a darker value for the mortar and that sort of thing, and so I can come in and make those bricks of various colors on those. There's other areas, as this goes back into space, we look at it, it goes darker. This is kind of an interesting structure here, where the whole of this area right here goes from a darker to a lighter as it comes down across this area. So if I'm to do that, I can come in and I can look at that area, and it looks to me like I can start here. Maybe I just start inputting my values. This is my darker area. And I'm going to start out light and gradually go darker. And I'm treating the whole area rather than trying to do the individual bricks. Sometimes you'll want to do individual bricks, sometimes it's the whole area with those as they come across. But I figured I'd get this background in. The darkers I can come in like with this ladder up here, this fire escape piece. It'll go, I'll make that darker eventually as well, but you got to start somewhere, so I decided to just do this part here. And so this is, because these parts get closer together, it's going to take a little buildup to get the value changed from going light to dark across this side, but you can already see that starts to happen. And then if I take, this has to be coming up here as well. And that will give us some variance in the surface, and I don't have to stick on it brick per se with those, but I want to get a light medium value in first, and then have that change with a gradient as it comes over here and gets lighter. I'm using vertical strokes. That will help facilitate the illusion of the structure. We've talked about that before. I'm pressing a little harder in here to get those values a little darker along that edge. A little heavier here. And I'm just going to gradually build up my values. Now I've apportioned 2 days for you to put in your values. So just take your time. This is not a rush. It's not the first person done wins. With drawing and art in general, it's a time-consuming process, and that's what we're really looking for in this as well. I want to go this side. I'm having trouble here with the edge of the paper, so I'm going to put my pencil down here, and I'm just going to pull across. But I want to pull across in the same direction of my vanishing lines, so I can also have the illusion of that structure of the pieces. And you'll start to notice that we're already starting to get that gradient effect. Notice here it's starting to look darker, and I'm going to facilitate it even more, because back down over here this is pretty dark too. And so if I went in here and started darkening this part in and gradually have it lighter, which makes sense on that. This is kind of some structure, it goes dark to light. This is some structure, it goes dark to light. I think that would work out pretty good. But this area in general is darker than the other. And so it also has a lot of closer lines in it, and so it's going to start out darker in its value. It looks like there's some light bands in here as well, so maybe as we come across here, we leave some of that lighter bands in there too, so that there's a streak of lighter stuff in it. And this is just a broad value applications across the walls of things. Like I said, there's a couple ways to do it. This one I'm covering the broad areas because the whole area in and of itself has a lot of marks and is quite dark to begin with. As I come out in here, let's say that we'll work in this area. So that's starting to come. I think I push this a little bit more down here, but you start to see where we have the values start to come in for the various parts of the wall as we go here. What else can I talked about maybe in this one? Maybe these ones where we see the bricks a little bit more and we know that these two values are a little bit different. Oh, my phone just exploded. Let's turn that off. With those, maybe you come in here and these ones here, I do that shading that I was talking about, where I have the medium values here, and then I come in here, and then I can push this in just a little bit darker around the edges. And I have a nice pencil that I can do that with, and maybe the next one we do the same sort of a thing, because I want to have those values in there. I'm going to have to press lightly on this to make this work out the way I want it to. And then let's make this one just, this one doesn't need to be, they don't all need to be the same value either. I do like this idea of this getting slightly darker as it comes in through here. I think that works out pretty cool. Like I said, it has a good three-dimensional quality to it. Because I have more detail in these bricks, they're closer, so I can see them a little bit better. So I can do the actual values that I'm looking for within these. Whereas those other ones down here, they're so small I didn't really need to do that. Okay, so we can start to see that start to develop a little bit more on what it is we're trying to do, on having that change with those. And like I said, it will probably take just a little bit of time to do some of those things. Some bricks may be a little bit lighter. Make this one really light right in here. And then let's make this one a little darker. But as you start to add those values in, it will start to take shape for you a little bit. It is all about the values, right? That's what we decided in class when we were working with it. It's kind of all about the values. We're trying to get lights, mediums, and darks in there. So we have creating our brick structure to where all of a sudden it has those three-dimensional qualities we're looking at. In looking at these ones over here, that's the final area, just because I wanted to show you how things would go on a couple of different areas. We got large, broad areas, we got detailed areas, we got some strange structures in here. I do have to look at the light and the dark side on this one. Looks like this is a little bit lighter on the front and it's a little bit darker underneath. So I know that if I just come in here, this is with, if it was like a white board or something like that, I know that this section would be quite a bit darker. It is not a light board, so I can go much darker in through here. Same is true of the underneath side. I'm taking this one at a diagonal because that's where the cross-hatching comes in, right? We talked about that as a value application technique, that if you use a 45-degree angle on your value application, that it will read as a kind of just a random direction, which can be helpful for your structure, because you can go in the direction of the structure itself by the sides, and you can also go in hatching and cross-hatching. This is now a cross-hatching application on there. It's a little bit of a light application. Notice darker than the sides. That's coming along well. But I need it to go even darker, so I'm going to go this way too. There's some value application in the direction of the surface, huh? There we go. Now a smart man would probably be wearing his glasses for detailed work. I'm not a smart man, and so my glasses are sitting over there beside myself. So I have a little, I hope I got those edges right with those. Okay, and so I did the darkest dark first on that. That will allow me to come in here, and let's just say putting in a medium value on this thing, and I can always push it darker, but it's harder to pull it out to where you can get it lighter. And so that's why I've chosen to start with the darkest values first and put them in, and then the lighter areas I'll add a little bit of value to those. then I'll make a judgment. Does the dark then need to go darker? Does the light need to go darker with those? Because, I mean, it is a dark thing on that one. Notice I'm doing the shading in the direction of the surface. And since this one, I'm going to do the shading in the same direction on this one as well, because I want this piece and this piece to be similar in their application, as this one down here too. And then this one was going to be dark, right? So I need to shade in this direction right here. What value is this in here? This one kind of blends. I think this needs to be maybe a cross between the two. So it needs to be a dark value, but not the darkest value. It needs to be darker than that part, huh? Same for this guy. So you know, light, medium, and dark. And so, as I said before, as I put that in, I'm like, well, this side is too much. I'm going to make this darker over here. So I can now come and push this value in here. So you can work this, build it up gradually. And so this part needs to go darker still, right? Particularly as it gets closer to the other part of the structure. I suppose that's where those glasses would have come in a little handy right there, huh? Okay, so here I need to push this value darker as it approaches this one here. Yeah, there we go. And this one too, darker right here. Notice, place the point, pull towards the center, place the point, pull towards the center. Another shading technique. Oh yeah. So yeah, so now we have the light, we have the medium, and then we have the darker versions of that coming through there, to where you have those different things coming into play. And if I end up saying, well, I like this a little darker over here, then if I push that a little bit darker, maybe I can get this a little bit darker. I want it to read that it's a dark surface, but just building them up gradually. And this is going to be true of whatever it is that you choose to draw and put the values in. You can build them up gradually, but keep this idea that you have 3 values on any particular thing. If you're accounting for 3 values, it's going to look 3-dimensional. If you only have 1 or 2 values on something, it's probably not going to have the 3-dimensional qualities you're looking for on that. Okay, that had just a little sticky outy portion right there. There we go. And so what do I mean by that? This is my light value, this is my medium value in here, and then these are my dark values, 3 values associated with that. We come over here to these bricks. I have a light value on the front, I have a medium value in the middle, I have a dark value on the side of it. So light, medium, dark. Light, medium, dark. This whole area over here, light on this side, transitioning into medium here, and then darker along this edge. This is going to have the same thing happening over here, light to medium to dark. So each of these areas, each of these things that I've identified drawing, has a light side, a medium side, and a dark side. As such, it's going to start to have 3-dimensional qualities. Same thing here with the lights. I start putting those in and looking at them. They have some reflected light things happening in here as well, but they transition to where there's dark. There's some, the lights and the darks are really close to each other when you have reflected light things. Let's see, let's do an example here. So supposedly this light thing is illuminated, right? But right here you have almost a darkest dark, and then this transitions into a medium right over here, and then this outer edge right here, that one's going to be light. That's the light area. So as I start to do that one, this has a medium value and it has a dark right here next to the light. This part right here has a dark right next to the light. Transitions into the medium value we're looking for. And then the light side is this part right over here. So even with our little light thing here, as I come across, I'm looking on this side, this part is going to have, this part is quite a bit darker here. So this is the dark side. And then this has some dark to it as well over here. But it transitions to where it's light in the middle, like that. And then this has a dark value coming around here. Why does it have a dark value there? Well, it's right next to the light, of course, right? This is the lightest area of it. Next to, you always have, if you have your lightest light, what's next to it? The darkest dark. Hello, that's right, that's the stuff. Keep on putting my arm in the way of where my light source is, so I can't see what's going on as well. And so then this part over here, dark on the very, very edge, medium, even though that medium value is fairly dark, and it comes in with the light in the middle. And I want to emphasize that just a little bit more with the structure, so I'm going to come up on top here with that, so we can see those lights, mediums, and darks. I'm going to put a little bit of a dark edge coming right out of here and right out of here. And so when I'm looking at the light bulb, this light thing now, this light fixture that I have coming over there, it looks three-dimensional. I have light areas, medium areas, dark areas. Light, medium, dark. I have a lot of light, and then I have a little bit of medium, and even lesser dark, but they're still all there in trying to create our three-dimensional qualities with our values. And so that is what we're after on these things. That's the key. That's the whole deal right there, right? That we were trying to learn, those lights, those mediums, and those darks. I may come back in and darken this one even a little bit more, depending on how things go and how they're relating to one another. But that's a little bit of a tutorial on trying to put in your values. Obviously, there's more work to do here than this. We do have 2 class periods, 2 class sessions to work it in. We may, if you need longer, we may throw in another one. I don't want you to get too bogged down with things, but we'll get you started on your value applications, and I look forward to seeing those finished works. Your startup stuff, your outline drawings were spectacular. As I was looking at those, I was really pleased. Keep up the good work. Thanks.